Okay, today we're going to be looking at the circular flow of income. This is just a model of the economy which is showing the exchanges which are made when goods and services or resources are bought and sold. So within this model, we're assuming that it is the households who are selling the factors of production to the firms in return for payment for those resources. So remember, the payment for land is rent, for labour is wages, for capital it's interest, and for enterprise or entrepreneurship it's profit. So we have the factors of production or resources flowing from the households to the firms in return for those payments, and we're going to call that income. Okay, so income, which we abbreviate with the letter Y. The firms are using those factors of production, combining them in some way, and producing goods and services. Okay, so the goods and services flow from the firms to the households in return, obviously, for money again, for payment for those goods and services. So we call this consumer expenditure, which is abbreviated with AC. So you'll notice that I did one set of arrows with dash lines. These are our real flows. Okay, so the goods and services and the resources, the factors of production, are examples of real flows, and the solid arrows are examples of money flows. One of the things that we need to be aware of is that the income flow, okay, so this flow here, will be equal to the expenditure flow and also equal to the value of output, so this flow here. Okay, so this is the simple model and we need to build it up into something a little bit more complicated. So we're now going to only concentrate on the money flows. Okay, so I've taken the dash lines out. Okay, so this model here, we're assuming an open economy, which means that the country is trading with other countries, and we have a foreign sector, and we're also going to introduce two more sectors. Okay, so we have to be aware that there will be leakages from this circular flow, but there will also be injections. So with that income that households are earning, they don't get to keep it all because the government's going to come along and take their share. Okay, so this is a leakage, taxes. The government does something with that money though. They're going to use that money to spend on education, healthcare, etc. Okay, so government spending, this is a G. Also, with that after-tax income, it's not necessarily the case that consumers are going to spend all of that money. Okay, so some of that money they will save. Okay, so we have savings with an S, and that money gets deposited into the financial sector. Okay, so we've got the banks. And then firms will borrow some of that money for to increase their stock of capital goods. We call this investment spending. Okay, and this is capital I. And lastly, remember I said before that we're considering an open economy. Some of that consumer expenditure will not be on goods which have been produced by domestic firms. Okay, so some of it will be on imported goods. So import payments is another leakage from the flow, and that goes to the foreign sector. But on the flip side of that, some of the goods which have been produced within the country are also exported to consumers in other countries. Okay, so we also have our export receipts as another example of injections. Import payments, capital M, export receipts, capital X. Okay, so we have our main flow, the income, consumer expenditure, but from that we have our leakages and injections. The leakages and injections don't have to balance. So, for example, if the government decided it was going to run a budget deficit and increase its spending or maybe decrease tax rates, that would lead to an increase in that income flow and the economy would be expanding. Similarly, if maybe the country has a current account deficit, which means that its export receipts are less than its import payments, that's going to decrease the flow of income and lead to a contraction of the economy. So if the combined leakages are greater than the combined injections, then the economy will be contracting. If the combined leakages are less than the combined injections, then the economy will be expanding. Okay, that is it.